So playing with randoms in Elden Ring Nightreign can be quite difficult, but actually it doesn't have to be. Today I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that you might want to know along the way that will drastically improve your experience, get you much stronger, and as a result give you much higher chances to successfully end the day with a win. First things first, before you jump into another expedition, I highly recommend having at least one of these relics with you, the ones that actually change the status effect of your starting armament. In this case, I highly recommend going with the bleed or the frost variant, as that's going to make your starting weapon actually have the extra build up and get quite a lot of extra damage literally from the moment you spawn in. So very helpful even if you do end up replacing that with a different weapon later on in the cycle. Now, if for some reason you don't have any of those relics, what you can do is further try your luck at the Jar Bazaar as well and basically buy scenic flatstones so that you can get random relics out of them. They cost 600 merc points each, but it's another chance for you to actually get the relics that you need with those status effects. You can even use a save scamming farming method with this, like backing up your save and then constantly repeating this until you get the relics. It's not completely needed, but I just wanted to let you know that that is actually something you can do. Now, the moment you drop into another expedition, the two next things I recommend focusing on are as follows. One is to prioritize getting at least one, but preferably two churches right from the first day, as that's going to give you 2 extra potions, which can help a ton with survivability. And second of all, and what I like doing in multiplayer, is to focus exclusively on just boss encounters, not even paying attention too much to trash mobs unless I can clear them out at the same time. Reason being is because if you move in as a group, it really takes no time to actually defeat these bosses, especially the ones around smaller ruins and smaller castles that I highly recommend starting with from early on, as they give thousands of XP, pretty much the equivalent of having to fight a whole group of regular trash mobs. But besides the XP, another important aspect is that you also get access to a lot more dormant powers, and this is where it's at. You really want those because you get all the extra powers, all the extra buffs, and potentially also a lot more weapons to shift through, some of which definitely may be way stronger than the one you actually start with at the beginning. So totally try it this way, see how it goes. Typically 9 times out of 10 for me, this is the best route to pick off. This also brings us to tip number 3, and chances are that you notice that a lot of these enemy places have specific status effect icons over them. So what that means basically is that defeating the boss in that area will drop a weapon with that power on. So for example, if you go in locations with, let's just say, fire or holy damage, you're going to get a weapon that actually features that type of damage. But it also goes the same with frost, bleed, as you will see them appearing on the map. And the reason these are important is because every third day boss encounter will be weak to a specific element. So for example, if you take a note of their weaknesses right here in the expedition screen before you actually jump in, you will see that many of them are weak to fire, for example, or holy damage, or even madness buildup. So ensuring that you get a weapon with that affinity is very important, as that's going to boost up your damage against that boss and make your run have higher chances at being successful. And speaking of getting extra powers, at number 4, do not discard these weapons that have the red hand icon on one of the passives. You can actually have that active, guess what, by just equipping it in the other hand. So let me give you an example with this Great Horn Hammer that I have that randomly dropped on my ranger. It's not a weapon I'm planning to use, but it has the Storm of Red Lightning effect that triggers randomly when walking. And right now you see that red icon appearing over it, which means it's not active. To make it active, what we have to do is, you guessed it, put it in the other hand. That's basically it. As you can see right here, it pretty much turned white, which means that effect is now active. But there's another thing to it. You don't even need to have that wielded in your hand to actually have its effect triggered. Like for example, I can just dual hand my primary weapon, which is the bow in this case, and you will still see that storm, the red lightning, spawning even if technically the weapon is actually on my character's back. And there are so many strong effects like these that you may be missing out on. Some of them may heal you on every hit, others may provide extra sources of damage, others may spawn different types of spells randomly. So just having them in the offhand, it doesn't matter which is your primary hand, as long as you have it equipped in the other hand that you're not using, you're going to get that effect out of it. But moving on to number 5, another thing you should definitely make a priority out of in every single run is to visit one of the mines at the very least. One will suffice, but make it so that your route eventually brings you to one of them, as if you defeat the boss inside, you're going to get a smithing stone level 2 out of it, which is how you're going to upgrade a rare weapon to epic quality. So in this case, let's say for example you're super unlucky with some of the dormant power drops and don't get any good weapon upgrades, you can actually use your existing weapons but promote them eventually to epic quality with the smithing stone 2 that you get out of one of the mines. One is going to be more than enough over here. Now moving on to number 7, if you want to power boost even quicker and get a lot more XP and dormant powers, one of the best areas, assuming you don't have others, is this massive castle typically in the center of the map. This is by far the most condensed area when it comes to the number of available bosses. So we have anywhere between 3 to 4 of these troll bosses, and then we also have 2 more, one beneath the castle in the sewers and another one on the rooftop. And every single one of them will provide dormant powers, plus there's also a chest once you defeat the one in the sewer that also has another extra dormant power. So that's 7 dormant powers that you can get within the span of just a few minutes, plus all of the extra XP if you're successful. But there's another reason why you may want to visit this location if you don't have an alternative, and that is because it's always going to spawn the merchant on one of its sides. So for example, if you reach this point and didn't get a chance to have a better weapon than your starting armament, what you can do is just buy a level 1 smithing stone and then promote your starting weapon. It's only 6.5k for one of those smithing stones, so it's actually quite easy, but you get a lot of damage. And in case you previously went to a mine, you can also then immediately upgrade that to epic and have a whole bunch of damage. Like, I'm pretty sure it's almost double the amount it normally has by default when you first start. And from this point on, it's just rinse and repeat. Again, also try to get 1 or 2 churches in the second day on your route so that you have at least 1 or 2 more extra of those healing potions. Typically, I end up in the 3rd day with about 6-7 of those potions if I'm lucky enough with all of the church areas. So this is basically what's going to at least put you in a position where you're going to have much higher chances of succeeding against the final boss encounter. Second day also makes the field bosses much more easily visible on the map. They are much stronger, but you can go ahead, immediately farm them and take them down similarly. A lot of them will actually have a chance to drop epic quality loot, so in this case you can definitely get some good upgrades going. Now moving on to number 9, another special kind of power that you can pay attention to is the one provided by the Shifting Earth events. Basically, the moment you defeat the very first expedition and unlock the rest, you're going to have a chance for your next map to randomly spawn between the next 4 shifting events, some of which you've already seen. So one includes that lava crater, but there's also a frost mountaintop, there's also the rotted woods, and finally the shrouded city, all of which actually have a very important, let's just say, buff, but it's also an achievement actually that you will typically see with that red icon, a very bright red icon that appears somewhere around the middle section of it. So if you go ahead and claim it, you're going to get some special powers. So let me show you what you get. In the case of the crater version, for which you're going to have to go all the way at the bottom, so that's pretty much the lowest level of it, you're going to get the power to upgrade one of your weapons to legendaries. Then for the mountaintops, you're going to have one that gives you a massive boost in your frost damage resistance and also lets you deal more damage against dragons. And given that this area spawns a lot of dragons that deal frost damage, it just makes it much easier for you to farm them and get a whole bunch of XP, plus even more legendaries because these are very tough encounters. Then the one in the Scarlet Forest, which is one of my favorites in my opinion. This is one that nullifies the Scarlet Rods, increases your max HP, but it also gives you this temporary HP bar if you get hit. So for example, while that effect is still on your HP bar, if you attack the target back, you can regenerate a part of that HP that you just lost. So it's pretty much another way to regenerate some of your HP without consuming any potions. There's technically also a fourth one, which is the Hidden City. Now, I didn't get a chance to get it just yet, but just so you know, that one lets you revive once in battle. We also have a bunch of consumables that do something similar. However, what you should know is that you can actually switch in between the Shifting Earth and try your luck with the next one by just sleeping in the waiting room. And upon resting, you're going to notice this new prompt here, Shifting Earth has settled. So you're going to have different ones appearing if you want to go with this route. And finally, this brings us to number 10, and in case you didn't notice, there's actually a story over here that you can follow for every single one of the 8 characters. In fact, you can even unlock 2 of the extra characters from here and also get extra bonuses for them, like better chalices, so that you can slot in even better types or better combinations of relics for them. So in this case, every time you're back at the round table hold, go ahead and pay attention to the journal, and specifically if you see any remembrance that you can play into, go ahead and do so with that character, because this is also how you're going to unlock extra sections at the round table hold, and even many of the objectives will bring you back to Limveld. So if you follow that story progression, the next time you're in Limveld, you can also complete the expedition, but also that extra objective, which you're now going to see on the map with distinctive icons. For example, I had one for the Wilder right here, in which I had to recuperate one of the whetstones in some random mine I was planning on visiting anyway. So this is like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Other times, and with different characters, you may have objectives such as taking down specific targets on the map, also marked of course for you to see, which can drop different items that you need for that story progression. And while we're on that subject, there are 2 classes over here that normally don't get unlocked by default, which is of course the Duchess as well as the Revenant. So in this case, it's actually very easy to unlock the first one. If you just go ahead into your first expedition, you should already have a very high chance to see this random old pocket watch dropping for you. You're going to see it at the end of the expedition if that's the case, or in your inventory. But what you have to do is just go with it at the Hooded Lady back at the round table hold and agree to give it in. This is not going to remove it from your inventory, it's just going to unlock the Duchess for you, and now you can have that equipped on her or on other characters. Meanwhile, for the Revenant, assuming that you unlock the Duchess already, the only thing you have to do is to purchase that besmirched frame that now appeared over at the Jar Bazaar. It's about 1500 merc points, but essentially this is going to now open up a new encounter over here at the round table hold. So go ahead, interact with the ghost, and you're going to have an encounter against the Revenant plus 3 of its summons. In this case, if you can, focus on her. If you defeat her, her summons will also despawn. But this is pretty much it with the video. Thanks much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.